Hello everyone, this side Dr. Nitin Sharma, Assistant Professor, Department of Information Technology, Ajay Kumar Girls Engineering College, Ghaziabad. Today I am going to discuss about introduction of Python programming. Okay, so we discussed little bit about our Python programming, variables, local variables. So we discuss one by one. So what is Python basically? So Python is an interpreted high-level general purpose programming language. It is a case-sensitive programming language. Why it is called case sensitive? Like suppose you are taking a variable or a function with a name, like you are taking a variable capital A. Okay, so like I'll take another color. Okay, so you are taking a variable A, and if you are going to access a small a, so that is not equal to, that is different, right? It is a case sensitive. Either you are taking a variable in a small letter or a capital letter, they are behaving a different variable. Okay, and same thing you can follow in a function. So suppose you are going to create a function like f1, and you are calling with capital F1, so it is giving an error, right? They are not, both are not equal. That is a case sensitive language. Okay, and Python is an interpreted language, so it is basically user interpreter. It is not using a compiler. So Python is an interpreted language, high level programming language. And why it is called general purpose language, general purpose programming language, you can see in the slide. Why it is called a general purpose programming language? If you are going to develop any kind of application which is used by the general peoples, okay, like I'll take an example for a calculator. So calculator, it can be used by a shopkeeper, mother, or a housewife, or we can say that a student or an engineer or a scientist. A calculator is a program which is used by any one of them. Like, so you can say that it is a general purpose application. So if you are going to develop any general purpose applications by the using of any programming language, so that particular programming language, we can say that that is a general purpose programming language. So with the help of Python, we can develop any kind of applications, like any kind of application. If you want to develop in a Python, you can easily develop. Python is providing a rich libraries to develop any kind of applications. Like for example, we can discuss one by one. So like we can see application development. So like the application development, window application development. Suppose you want to develop a calculator or a browser or a notepad. So if you develop this kind of application or a rich editor like a MS Word, so if you want to develop any kind of that kind of application, you can develop by the using of Python library, right? Next, web development. So suppose you want to develop a web application like a Facebook, Amazon, or Flipkart. So these kind of application, if you want to develop in Python, so you can easily develop. They are providing us some libraries like some framework also. Django framework is provided. Flask framework is also provided by the Python, which you can use to develop the web applications, right? Next, the most popular applications which are today used by the most popular companies for the marketing purpose, that is a web scraping applications. What basically web scraping is? Web scraping is like data is available. Sometimes data is available on a public portal, but sometimes data is available in a website only, that is publicly available, but not in a manner that you have to research or you have to do something that particular data. So what you have to do, you have to be download that data. If you goes to the manually, like you can copy paste into an Excel file, they are taking a lot of time, right? So what you have to do, you have to create a program that is automatically downloaded that data from that particular website and store into an Excel file, and then you can load it into your program, and then you can analyze data and do the things whatever you want to do that particular data. So the downloading the data from that particular pages and store into a file automatically, that is called a web scraping application. So these kind of applications are used most of the marketing company, digital marketing company are using a web scraping applications. They are doing creating applications which is downloading data from the different websites, and after that they are making a decision. For example, suppose there is a website which is show that this product is available at that particular price in that particular different of websites. So how they can do it? If you are going to implement this thing in manually, that is very complete task. You should go to the 10 websites and see what the product price on that particular websites and put on your database, right? That is a very difficult. So what you have to do, you have to create application, web scraping application. You can just pass the address, they can just see and downloading the data and show on your websites, right? So these kind of applications you can develop in a Python. Another kind of application like artificial intelligence, like if you want to develop the robotics, okay, or you have to implement an algorithm which is related to artificial intelligence, you can easily implement it by using Python, right? Python is also providing a libraries which you can directly implement that particular algorithm. Game development. So like if you want to develop the game, like take an example for a snake game or a space inventor game, jet space game. So if you want to develop a game, so it is also providing a Pygame module which you can use and develop the application of game development. Next is data science. So if you work on a data science project, okay, so in the data science, what you have to do, you have to collect the data. So collect the data by using a web scraping, okay. Suppose if you are having already data is providing by the company and you have to do some analysis, you have to apply some analytics and you have to find out the insights from the data. So you can easily get the data from the from the using of Python library. Like you can see the data visualization libraries available in a Python, like Matplotlib and Seaborn libraries, which you can use in your project and see the insights data available in a particular data. And the last is machine learning projects. If you want to build a model, or if you want to modification in a modeling, so in a particular machine learning model, you can use by using Python. You can develop the machine learning models also. So you can see any kind of application. Suppose you are learning a Python and after some time you are interested is come into the web development. So no need to switch the technology. You simply switch to that particular domain. You are starting Python and after some time you are interested is come into the machine learning modeling. So you just go into the machine learning modeling phase, right? So you can just expertise in a machine learning modeling. So that's why Python is called a general purpose programming language. You can just start from the beginning, and after sometimes you can, if you want to switch from a particular domain, like I just want to go in a game domain, so you can just switch easily. No need to change the technology. Like for example, I can take an example for PHP. So PHP is a programming language which is basically used for the web development, right? And after learning, sometime you are interested to come into the, like I just want to go in a game development side. So you have to change the technology, right? There is no scope to develop a game in a PHP. Like you can create a web-based gaming little bit more. But if you want to develop any car racing game type of in a PHP, it is not possible. It is, you can easily develop in a Python. So that's why Python is called a general purpose language. That's why I told you Python is an interpreted high level general purpose programming language, and Python is a case sensitive programming language, right? Now, what is variable in a Python? So you have to understand first what is constant and what is variable. Constant is basically which you never change. Like if I can take an example, what is this? 2, that is constant. If I can talk about in 1947, it is 2. In 2023, it is 2. And if anybody is asking after 2046, in 2046, it is again 2. That is constant. It never changed, right? But the variable means which vary the values, right? Which is having some value at that particular time. After some time, if you want to update, increase, decrease, whatever you want, it is basically change the values. Understood? So what is Python variable? Python has no command for declaring a variable. Why? Because Python is a loosely typed language. Like the other programming language, there are basically 2 types of language. First is loosely typed, second is tightly typed language, right? So tightly typed language means they are having a data types, they are having a particular command. If you want to declare any variable, you should to define that, declare that particular variable is stored that kind of data only, right? Suppose for example, in a C language, if you want to declare a variable with the integer type, you have to create like this. So we are giving a command here. A is a variable which stores some value. What kind of value? Integer value. It can store only the integer value. If you want to give in a string type value, it is just rejected it. If you want to give here a boolean value, it's just rejected it, because A is a variable, it can understand only a integer type value. That's it. So this is the command which we are giving in a C programming language. But in a Python, there is no command to declaring a variable. A variable is created the moment you first assign a value for it. Whenever you are assigning a value, suppose you are creating here A is equal to 10. That's it. the variable is declared, the value is stored into that particular variable, and the type of that variable is loosely typed. It's changed the type and now its type is integer. In the next line, I am going to create here a, I am writing here a is equal to Nitin. It accepts that value because it is a loosely typed. It changed the type. Now the type of a is a string. Understand my point? Whenever I am going to declare a variable in a strictly typed language like a C, C++ or Java, we have to give a command to that particular variable. This variable should store only the integer type value. But in Python, there is no command. Whenever you are creating a variable and assigning a value, it is basically changing the type and accept that value. That's it. Variable don't need to declare with any particular type. No need to declare it. Like before using, no need to declare any type of variable like a is an integer type, a is a string type, no need to. Just, and can even change the type after they have been set. Like you can see the example. This is the example when a is equal to 10. So the type is integer. In the next line, whenever writing here a is equal to Nitin, the type of a is the string. So you can see in the previous step, the type of a is integer. In the next step, a is a string. So the type is changing as per the values. So you can even change the type after they have been set. Once the variable is having a value and the type is set, you can change it. So there is no command here. And a variable or identifier have 4 attributes. Whenever creating a variable, the variable is having 4 things. Okay, understood. You have to understand that a variable in any programming language, it is having some things like some attributes they are having here. So similarly in a Python, whenever you are creating a variable, like I am going to create a variable like a is equal to 10, right? So it is stored into a memory. So whenever it is stored into a memory, so like this is the memory box, 10 is stored here. A is the identifier which is pointing out this, and there are some address or a reference ID. We can just write here 10102. So this is the reference ID. Understood? So that particular variable, what is basically having this particular variable here. So you have to understand what first one is type. What type of data it is stored. So you can see it, if you can check the type. So there is a function that in a Python that is type, which you can use here, type A. It is basically explain here what is the type of A currently, right? So currently it is having an integer type of data. So the type of A is integer. Next is ID. What is ID in Python? Basically whenever a variable is stored into a memory, so the memory location is represented by a hash values, but in a Python it is basically assigning an ID. That ID is unique for the particular variable, right? So A is a variable which is storing some value. It is stored in the memory space, and you can see this is the ID. This is a unique ID. Suppose I am going to create another variable like B is equal to 20, right? So B is equal to 20 is also stored in a memory. So like B is pointing out this. It is stored into a 20, and it is also a reference number, like any reference number. So that particular reference number is uniquely identify that particular variable. So that is called ID in a Python. If you want to check ID of any variable in a Python, you can use a ID function. So ID, you can write here the variable name. It is basically written that particular ID of a particular variable. Whatever variable you can pass here, you can see that particular value. Next is value. So value, obviously a variable is having a value, either it is integer or a string, whatever value a variable is storing. So that value is also an attribute which is having that particular variable. Understood? And next is scope. So scope is also available that particular variable, right? So it is a global variable or it is a local variable. The scope should be maintained by that particular variable. So there are 4 attributes must be stored at a time whenever variable are creating. First is type, what type of value it is storing. What is ID, which is uniquely identified for the particular variable. Next is value, what value it is stored, and scope, what is the scope of that particular variable, local or global, right? So this is basically the Python variable. Whenever you are going to create a Python variable name, so variable name is just like same in a C programming language. A variable can have a short name like the X and Y, or ABC, whatever you want to write, or a more descriptive name. Descriptive name means a name is told us that what kind of value they are storing, what is the purpose of that particular variable, right? So like you can see age, car name, total volumes. So these are the descriptive name. The variable is basically show that that particular value is stored, and that variable is basically used, that kind of things. Okay. And rule for Python variable, the simple rules like same in the other programming language. A variable name must start with a letter or the underscore characters. Okay. No special character you can use in the starting. Okay. And a variable name cannot start with a number. So suppose you want to create a variable like one name. So that is wrong because it is starting with a number. Suppose you are going to create a variable with name 1. So that is good, right? It is okay. If you want to use a number, you can use after the characters. But if you are starting with the number, it is wrong. A variable name can contain only alphanumeric character underscore, like small a to small z, capital A to capital Z, and small 0 to 9, and a underscore only. There is no special character allow in a whenever you are going to create a variable name. Like suppose you are creating a total volume. So total volume, you can see underscore is using here, right? And if you want to create a like total dot volume, so that is wrong. No special character allow in a Python variable name. Whenever you are going to create a variable name, you have to use either 0 to 9, either alphanumeric alphabets like small a to capital A or small capital A to small z, like this, and underscore only. No hash, dollar, these sign are not allowed in a variable name. I've already discussed Python name is a case sensitive programming language. So age you can see this is a small, and this age is basically A is capital, and this is both all the characters are capital. So there are 3 different variables is considered by the Python programming language. Because it is a case sensitive. If you are taken here, this is a small case, this is a capital letter, this is a upper cases variable. So these 3 variables are 3 different variables, right? A variable name cannot be any of a Python keyword. So predefined keyword, you cannot create a Python variable name. Like if you want to create a variable name if, while, for, so any Python keyword you cannot use to create a variable. So these are the things you have to be remember it. Okay. And these are the common rule which is basically followed by the any other programming language. Whenever you are going to learn a C, Java, any other programming language, the same number of rules is followed by the other programming language. Okay. Now understand what is the scope, global variable and a local variable. So you can see there is a variable X. Awesome. And this is a function. You can see variable that are created outside a function are known as a global variable. Whenever you are using a variable in a starting in your program or outside of a function, so that means you can use either outside of the function or inside in a function. So if any variable which is used by at any point of your program, that is basically a global variable. So you can see X is declared here awesome, and whenever I am calling here function, so it is printing Python is awesome, because global variable can be used by the everyone, both inside of function and outside of a function. And if you are going to create a variable inside a function, and if you want to use that for a particular variable outside of a function, so it is not available there. Why? Because the scope of that particular variable only inside the function only, that is. Understand my point? So that is called the local variable for the particular function. If you want to access that variable outside of the function, so you have to be declared that particular variable outside of the function. So you can use by the any other functions in your program. Understood? Casting. So casting is the most important thing in a Python. Like suppose if you want to specify the data type of a variable, that can be done by using a casting. So suppose you are having some value and you want to convert from one data type to the other type. So you can use the casting. For example, in the Python, there is a type, there is a function that is input, right? And input is a function which is used to take the input from the user, right? So whenever you want to take any input from the user, you can use an input function. So let us take an input function and store the value into a X, right? And another variable y is equal to, we are taking here another value input. So whenever I am going to run this program, they are taking a two value. First value is insert into the x, second value are insert into the y, right? So there are two values here. So what is the problem is here, whenever I am going to do here z is equal to x plus y, right? X plus y, and if I am going to here print z, right? What is the problem? Suppose I am giving here, user is giving here 5 and 3. Okay, so the input is 5 and 3, and when we are doing an addition and it is printing a 5 3, and it should come 8. That is wrong. It should come 8. So what is the problem? So problem is that whenever I am calling an input function, by default it is taking a value in a string format. Whatever you are insert in either in a integer form or either in a string form. Whatever you are insert at the input time, it is taking as a string. So if you are going to check here type, what is the type of x? So it is show str, string. So whenever you are using a plus operator with the string data types, so it is basically a concatenate to each other, and you can see when you are concatenating 5 and 3, the output is 5 3. That is the wrong answer, but as per the logic, input is taking as a string. So a string, 5 string and 3 string, when you are using a plus operator with a string, it is concatenate to each other, so the answer should be 53. That is correct, but logically that is wrong. So what you have to do, you have to convert this string to an integer. Understand my point? What is the problem? Problem is that whenever you are taking an input, it is a string format and you need an integer. So what you have to do, you have to convert that particular string into an integer, and that time casting is come into the picture. What you have to do, you have to convert that particular value into a integer. How you can convert? You can simply call the int function. So like int, and you can pass the value. So x is having a string value, so I am passing here x. It is basically cast into the integer, and you can store into a variable. Either you can store into the same variable or the other variable, whatever you want. Okay, and similarly you can do for y. Y is equal to integer y, and after that I am doing here z is equal to x plus y, and if I am going to print z, it is printing here 8 now. That is correct. Understand my point? So whenever you are having some data in other type and you want to convert into the another type, so what you have to do, you have to use the casting, and the function is providing, like if you want to convert any integer type or float type value into a string, you can use str function. If you want to convert any value in a string, you are having here integer function. If you are having any value and convert it into the float value, you are having here float function. Understand my point? So if you want to convert any value into the another value, you can do the casting here. Operators in Python. So operators, like we have already discussed in Python, operators in C programming language, but in Python there are some different kind of operators here. Like if I am talking about an arithmetic operator, so they are doing the same thing like plus, minus, multiply, division and mod. So all the operators are doing the same. Like in a mathematics or in any programming language, like a is equal to a plus 5, add them a plus 5. Minus is used for subtraction, multiply is used for multiply two operand, division is basically do the division. The main point of division in a Python is it or the result is always in float, always in float. Either you can see if I can do 5 divided by 2, it return 2.5. If I can divide 4 by 2, it return 2.0. Either it is completely divided or partially divided. If it is partially divided, it gives the float answer. But if it is completely divided, it is also given like the floating point answers. Understood? Next is floor function. Floor function is basically give the floor value. Like suppose I am having here 5.2. So the value is 2.5. So what is the floor value? Floor value is 2. So it is basically always giving the floor value, right? And double multiplication sign is basically used for the power, like a to the power b. So suppose you want to calculate a to the power b, so you can write here a double multiply b. So it is basically if you want to calculate a to the power b, you can use a double multiply sign. So these are the arithmetic operator which you can use in a Python. Assignment operator is basically a equal to sign which is used to assign the value. Like for the example, a is equal to 5. So 5 is basically assigned to the a. Understand my point? Okay. So similarly, they are using all the arithmetic operators. So what does that mean? If you can expand this, this is the short way to write any equations. So what is the short form? You can see here. If a is equal to a plus 15, so you can write here a plus equal to 15. What is the method? Method is very simplest. Simplest is that if the left recursive value, if the equation is recursive, like if you are writing here x is equal to x plus 10. So it is basically a left, we can say that if it is a function form, so it is a left recursive. It is always recursive in a left hand side. So if the both the variable are same, if the left hand side variables are same, so you can write here x plus equal to 10. That's it. Okay. Similarly, you can apply in a negative, multiply, division, mod, floor value and the multiplication values. Okay. So assignment operators are working for all the same other operators. Okay. Comparison operator which is used to compare the two things. If you want to compare two things, so you can just see by using a comparison operator, either less than, greater than or equal to. So you can see the greater than, if the left operand is strictly less than the right operand, so it is basically written, and the comparison operator is basically always written the true, either true or false. It is always written the Boolean value, right? So greater than, equal to, less than equal to, double equal to. Now the matter is double equal to. So here you can see double equal to, if the left operand equal to the right operand. Double equal to is always basically compare the values here, right? What is the difference between single equal to and double equal to? It is basically a assignment operator. Assignment operator, that means that you are assigning a value, and double equal to is basically used to compare the values, right? Understand? Identify operator is basically you have to be check is and is not. You have to compare, check that particular value is in that particular variable or not. For example, you can see x is having a two values here, y is also having a two values, that is equal to x. So what I am doing here, I am just suppose you can understand by using this, x is basically a memory location, y is having a different memory location, right? Both are having the same data, but both are storing in a different place. When I am writing here z is equal to x, so that means z is a variable which is also pointing out the same memory location. Understand? So when I am checking x is z, so it is basically written true because x is a z. X and z are both are pointing in the same memory location. But when I am checking here print x is y, no. Both are having the same data, but both are not are pointing on the same memory location. Okay, and print x is equal to y. So x is equal to I have already discussed earlier, is equal to basically a compare that both are having the same data. So they are comparing, both are having the same data, that is written a true, right? Membership operator, if you want to check that particular value is a member of that particular list or a tuple. So you can see there is an example like x is having a list which is having a two values, apple and banana. So I am writing here print banana in x. So it is basically asking a question or checking a membership, banana in x. So it is written a true because banana in x, right? If I am writing here guava in x, so it is written false because guava is not a member of x. So if you want to check a membership in a particular large list, you can use the membership operator. It is basically checking it is in or not in. Understood? It is also written the true and false. And the last point is range function. You can use a range function also. Range function is basically having a three parameter. First is start, stop and steps. And whatever I have written in a green color, it is a optional, and the red color is stop. It is basically a strictly you have to be pass here, right? So if you are not passing any, if there is any optional thing in a Python, so it must be having some minimum values, right? So what is the minimum value of a start is 0, and what is the minimum value of a step is 1. So it is basically creating a sequence. So creating a sequence like if I am writing here range, I am writing here 2, 21, 1 or 2. Okay, so it is basically creating a sequence 2, 4, 6, 8 and so on till 20. Okay, and you must be remember that a stop point, that means at point, end point 21 is not included, it is excluded from the range. So it is basically creating a sequence. That sequence is stored into a particular variable, either you can store it or either you can use in your program. Okay, so whenever you are you want to create a sequence, you can use a range function, and it is basically you can use either range n. N means you can just pass the stop, start and stop is no need to pass here. If you are passing a 2, so that means starting point and the end point pass. So by default it is taking step 1, and the next is start, stop and k is the steps. So you can overwrite it. That means these are the optional point, either you can overwrite or not. It is up to you. It is according to the usability of the range function, and it is written the sequence of that particular things whatever you are passing in a range function. Okay, so thank you so much. Enough for today. In the next lecture we discuss more about if else and the conditional statement. Thank you so much.